Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Hello students, the name of this topic is sowing, right? Let us see what sowing is. Sowing is basically the distribution of seeds on the plowed field. Basically, sowing is distribution of seeds on the plowed field. Basically, here we have to understand that the field is firstly plowing is done, right, to turn and loosen the soil. Then after plowing is done, the next step is sowing of seeds. We put seeds in the soil for the growth, right? So the first step in sowing is selection and sowing of seeds. Firstly, we select the seeds that are to be sowed, right? We select the seeds which are good. First of all, students, if you have to differentiate between good crop and good seeds and bad seeds, you have to put them in water, right? So how does it help? If the crop is good, then it will sink. If the crop is bad, then it will float. Now, why is this so? Why is the good crop sinking and the bad crop floating? Because the bad crop has been eaten by microorganisms and it is hollow from inside, right? The bad crop is hollow, so it will be lighter. That is why it floats on water. While the good crop that has no damage inside it, it will sink because it is heavier than water, right? So this is how we differentiate between good crop and bad crop. There are certain points to be remembered while selecting crops other than bad and good crop. Let us see what these points are. First is they must be viable with high percentage of germination. Secondly, they must be high yielding. This means that they must produce good amount of crop. Good amount of seeds must be obtained once we put these seeds for the sowing for growth of crop. So high yielding crops must be used. Thirdly, free from insects and pests. There must not be any insect or pests present in the seeds, because if there are, then you are already providing them with the insects and pests which will utilize the nutrients of the soil and also will destroy our crop growth. So they must be free from insect and pests. Thirdly, they must be treated with fungicides before sowing. Students, some seeds catch fungi. So we must check for fungi before we sow these seeds. So before sowing, the seeds must be treated with fungicides to kill all the fungus that is present, right? To remove all the fungus or kill the fungi that is present on the crop. So firstly, they must be viable with high percentage of germination. Secondly, they must be high yielding. Thirdly, they must be free from insect and pests. Fourthly, they must be treated with fungicides before sowing, right? Next, points to be kept in mind while sowing seeds. These are certain points that must be kept in mind before sowing seeds, while sowing seeds. First one is, seeds should be sown at the right distance. There must be distance between the seeds so that their roots can grow properly. If they are too close, if the crops are too close, their roots will not be able to grow much longer, right? Because the same soil, the same amount of soil will be present for them. Only this amount of soil will be present for each crop. So nutrients will be lesser per plant. So we must grow them at a distance so that they have plenty of soil nutrients and their roots can grow properly, right? Secondly, seeds should be sown at the right depth. They must be present at the right depth so they are able to obtain the nutrients of soil properly, because the soil that is present a few centimeters beneath the surface is much more nutrient rich. So seeds should be sown at the right depth, right? 2 points that should be remembered are seeds should be sown at the right distance so that they have good amount of soil for them. Each plant has a good amount of soil which can provide nutrients to it, and also their roots can grow properly. Secondly, seeds should be drawn at right depth because the soil that is present beneath the surface, beneath the few centimeters of the surface, has much more nutrients, is much more nutrient rich as compared to the soil on the surface. So seeds should be sown at right depth also, right? Now students, tools used for sowing seeds. What are the tools used? Firstly, we'll be discussing the traditional tools. Funnel shaped tool attached to a plow. Basically, as you already know what a plow is, there is a wooden instrument, right? It has this kind of structure at the back, and this end has a sharper end, right? This is kind of a blade. Now, a funnel shaped tool is attached to the plow. A funnel shaped tool is attached to the plow, right? Here we attach the funnel shaped tool in which we have put the seeds. Now, when this plow is pushed by the cows, this funnel shaped tool drops the crop at certain intervals, right? It keeps on dropping the seeds. As the plow moves in the rows, it keeps on dropping the seeds in the rows only. This is how sowing is done, right? The plow helps in plowing the field as well and putting the seeds on the spot at the same time. So it is saving time as well, right? We are doing two tasks at the same time. So it is saving the time. As you can see, there is a funnel type tool attached, right? You can attach it at the wooden handle, or you can attach it at the bottom. Basically, traditionally it was used at the top. Here the one person is dragging the plow and second person is putting the seeds inside the funnel. This is the funnel and the seeds go in the bottom, right? With the plow, the seeds are sown inside the field, right? This is how it works. Secondly, seed drill. Traditional was basically manual. This is not manual, right? It uses a machine which is used for sowing of seeds. What does this machine do? The seed drill consists of a set of vertical tubes with the funnel at top. There are many vertical tubes as you see, right? From these tubes, seeds come out, right? Seeds come out of these tubes. As I am trying to draw, you can understand that these tubes have holes and from these holes seeds come out. So this machine is much more efficient because first of all, manual labor is not required, right? You just have to drive the tractor and you have to put the seeds in the funnel that is present at the top, right? There is a funnel on the top. You can see that here is the funnel in which you put the seeds, and this funnel ultimately distributes the crops in the tubes, and these tubes then release the seeds in the soil when you plow the field. So this seed drill, as you can see, here are many openings which are dropping the seeds on the field, right? Here. All these are the openings of the seed drill. So this is again much more efficient, as I told you, and it also drops many number of seeds, in many rows. So this is more efficient, right? This is a seed drill, right? It consists of a set of vertical tubes with the funnel at the top, right? In the funnel you put the seeds and these vertical tubes keep on distributing the seeds on the field, right? Now this is the broadcaster. Broadcaster is a wide mouthed tube that spreads seeds randomly, right? In this you put the seeds and it distributes the seed in the random manner, right? In the field. This is again an instrument utilized manually to distribute the seeds randomly, right? To spread the seeds randomly on the field, right? Now we are going to discuss the methods for sowing of seeds, right? First is broadcasting. This is basically manual, right? It is done with the help of your hands simply. You do not require any machine. As you can see in the picture, this person is just throwing the seeds in the ground, right? They will fall randomly on the field, right? So this method is scattering of seeds randomly, not in any organized manner. You are distributing the seeds randomly, right? This is the easiest thing to do, right? Because you are just distributing it. You are not taking care of the pattern. It is not uniform. It is a non-uniform random scattering of seeds on the field. Second is sowing by seed drills only. As you see, as I already explained the seed drill. See, this is the seed drill and there is a leveler attached to the seed drill as well. This is being used for leveling. As I told you, what is leveling? Leveling is done to make the rows uniform, right? So it is leveling the rows as well. Now seed drill helps in sowing of the seeds. Seeds are sown uniformly here, right? The seeds are discharged from the seed drills in the uniform pattern in the rows, right? It is much more organized, right? So this is a much better way of sowing for the sowing of seeds. Now transplantation. What is transplantation? Seeds are grown in nursery. In nursery, basically this looks like a nursery, right? There is water present in the field and small plants, seedlings have grown, right? Until the seedling stage. Basically there is a seed and there is a seedling stage in which the seed has grown into a small plant, right? Seed has grown into a small plant. So seeds are grown in the nursery till seedling stage. When seed becomes a seedling, after the seed becomes the seedling, these are transplanted to the major field, that is the where they have to grow. So as you can look at this person, he is picking up the seedlings, right? These are the small plants and these will be grown in the field now, right? This was the nursery. There is a lot of water. There are a lot of nutrients that are present in this soil. So after they have become a seedling and they have obtained many nutrients, they are now put into the field so that they can grow properly in a bigger portion with more soil. So this is transplantation. This is again a different kind of sowing. Here you grow them, you sow them firstly in the nursery. Then after the seed is converted into a seedling, this seedling is transferred into the field. And this is again the second step of sowing only. This kind of sowing is known as transplantation. So in this lecture we learned what sowing is, how sowing is done, what are the instruments used for sowing, and what are the different methods that are used for sowing of plants. Irrigation. Students, for anything to grow, water is an essential component. Life is not possible without water. We require water to drink, right? Without water we cannot survive. It goes similar for plants as well. For plant growth also we require water in ample amount, right? So the supply of water to crops at different intervals is known as irrigation. So what does the statement say? It says that the supply of water to crops, right? As you can see in this picture, water is being supplied with the help of sprinkler system that we will be talking about in this lecture only, right? So supply of water to crops at different intervals is known as irrigation, right? Now students, why do plants need water? We need to understand that what is the requirement of water, that why do we water plants at different intervals? Let us see. First reason is proper growth and development. If water is not provided in good amount to plants, then they do not grow properly, their development is not proper. So for proper growth and development, water is necessary. Secondly, roots absorb mineral and fertilizers dissolved in water. If roots are absorbing anything from the soil, then it has to be dissolved with water. So for the plant to absorb the minerals and fertilizers, they have to be dissolved in water so that the roots of the plant will absorb them. So that is why water is again necessary for the minerals and fertilizers to reach to the plant with the help of roots, right? Third, seed germination requires presence of water. Now, seed germination also requires presence of water. Seed germination cannot take place if there is no water present. So this is the third important reason, that seed germination is again very important for us to grow new plants, right? So seed germination requires presence of water. Fourth reason, water protects the crop from frost and hot air currents. Basically, water keeps the crop in a moderate temperature so that it does not feel very cold during winters and very hot during air currents, right? It remains at a fine moderate temperature so that it remains well during frost and during hot air currents. So it protects the crop from frost and hot air currents. Last, all nutrients are transported in the plant body using water as a medium. As already we have talked about in second point, that water is important for the plant to absorb minerals and fertilizers dissolved in water. Similarly, all the nutrients are transported in the plant body from roots to stem to different leaves. They are transported using water as a medium, right? So these are the points which tell us that water is very important for plants for their proper growth and development, right? This is why irrigation is important, because plants need to be watered at certain intervals. Without that, plants will not grow properly, right? Now, time and frequency of irrigation. As I just told you that plants have to be watered at certain intervals. So the time and frequency, basically time means that if you have watered today morning, would you water them again in the morning or in the evening? That is the time. And frequency means twice a day, thrice a day, that is frequency. So time and frequency of irrigation varies from, first is crop to crop. That different crops require different amount of water for their growth. For example, as you can see in this picture, a paddy field has been shown which is of rice. For rice to grow, you can see that there is a lot of water present, right? You can see the water. This is the amount of water present in a paddy field. But on the other hand, as you can see the field of a wheat crop, you do not require that much of water as required to grow rice. So rice requires more amount of water than wheat, right? So this is what I am telling about, that time and frequency of irrigation varies from crop to crop. For rice, you need to give water again and again, while wheat does not require that much of water. So first criteria was that time and frequency of irrigation varies from crop to crop. Secondly, from soil to soil, that every soil does not require the same amount of water. For example, this is clay, right? Now, if clay does not absorb that much of water, it only absorbs this much of water. So clay needs to be watered again and again, right? Loam can absorb more water, so its water retaining capacity is better, right? Water retaining capacity. As clay cannot hold much water for longer time, so it needs to be watered again and again. And also it requires lesser water also, that it does. The plants growing in clay do not require that much water. Then loam requires more water than clay, right? Because the plants that grow in loam soil need more water, and the plants that grow in sand, they require even more water. So this is how it goes, that from soil to soil also it varies. You do not have to learn the kind of soil, you just have to understand that time and frequency of irrigation depends on the soil type as well, right? Next, season to season. Now students, there are some crops that are grown in summer, some are grown in monsoon season, rainy season. So the frequency and time of irrigation depends on season also. As during summers, the evaporation of water takes place at a very fast rate, right? Evaporation of water is majorly due to a lot of heat, a good temperature present outside, due to which the water evaporates really quickly. So there is a need of watering these plants again and again. So during summers, the time and frequency, basically the frequency of irrigation is increased due to higher rate of evaporation of water. Similarly, during monsoon, as you know, during monsoon it frequently rains, right? So with the help of rains, ample amount of water is already present in the fields. So the frequency of irrigation can be reduced because water is already present due to a natural source, that is rain, right? So the frequency and time of irrigation depends on season to season as well. Now let us see what are the sources of irrigation. Basically, irrigation is the supply of water. So for supply of water, we require a source from which we will be obtaining water, right? So what are these sources that are present near people? One of them is canal. This is a man-made river, basically, as you can see in this picture. This is man-made river. Basically, it comes from a main river and it has been cut out for different areas of the states so that every area receives ample amount of water. So these are man-made rivers and they are utilized for irrigation only, right? This is canal. Then comes pond. As you can see, there are many ponds in villages, right? And these ponds basically help in irrigation. The water naturally fills from the bottom of the earth. The groundwater comes to fill the ponds. So this is a natural resource, right? This is not a man-made resource. There are many ponds that have been created by man as well. But yes, ponds are a good source of irrigation because they refill by themselves. Then next source is wells. Wells, they are very common in villages. In villages, they are used for irrigation. Basically, wells are holes digged to obtain underground water. So, with the help of a bucket, as you can see, the bucket is lowered down in the well and the water is taken out. It is a very lengthy process and not that efficient because it requires very much labor. So wells are not that efficient, but they are good source of irrigation for people who have small pieces of land, right? They do not have to water acres of land, then well can be used. Then dams. These are used majorly for large fields because there is huge amount of water present, right? So for larger fields, water is obtained from dams. As you can see, the amount of water and the flow of water as well. So they are easily transferred into the nearby fields, right? Then comes a tube well. Now what is a tube well? Tube well is a pipe. It also basically utilizes underground water. There is a pipe that has been dug inside the ground. Now there is a motor that pulls out the water from the ground and you obtain it in a, you can say anything, a waterbed, right? So basically these are some sources of irrigation from which you can obtain water necessary for irrigation, right? Now comes methods of irrigation. What are the different methods of irrigation? First of all comes the traditional methods. Students, obviously farming has been done, agriculture has been performed in India from ancient times, right? So when there were not any machines, people used to do agriculture with the help of traditional methods. As you also saw for sowing, there was manual method. They were using plowing, they were plowing fields with the help of a plow hoe. So these are traditional methods. Coming to irrigation, simple crude lever systems are used in traditional methods. We will be seeing what kind of crude lever systems these are. Some of the traditional methods of irrigation are moat, pulley system basically, chain pump, dhekli and rahat. These four are traditional methods utilized for irrigation and they are simple crude lever systems. We will be seeing them one by one. Let us see. The first one is moat system or basically pulley system. What happens is there is a pulley on the well, right? So this pulley is being pulled with the help of a rope and water is obtained in a bucket. It is basically well, it is a well basically. From the well, you are obtaining water with the help of a pulley, right? Because if you work without a pulley, a lot of force is required to pull out the bucket. But if there is a pulley, the force required is reduced very much. So with the help of a pulley and a rope. The bucket is pulled out and water is utilized for irrigation, right? This is a simple system, water being obtained from a well, and only the new thing introduced was a pulley, right? This is the pulley. Pulley is basically a wheel kind of a thing which rotates with the rope, right? Second is chain pump. What is chain pump? First of all, look at the picture. There are two pulleys, right? This is a pulley and this is a pulley. There are two, this basically is a chain, right? This line that you can see, which is around the pulleys, is a chain, right? Now with the wire, with the chain, you have attached buckets. As you can see, this is the chain, this is the buckets, and this is the water source, right? Basically the water source is here and you have to bring the water to the surface. So what happens is, with the help of the rotation of the pump, as the pump rotates, as the pulleys rotate, the chain also rotates and brings down the buckets into the water source, right? As you can see, these buckets are moving, they are going into the water source, they are being filled with water and they are being transferred to the destination, and here they release the water that they have obtained from the water source. So this is a chain pump to obtain water from a water body and further using it for irrigation, right? Now this water can be drawn into the fields with the help of a motor, with the help of pipes. We will be seeing what kind of different systems are used. So this is a chain pump and this is a traditional method, right? This here basically the water is being sent to the field, right? Now coming to the third system, that is dhekli. What is a dhekli? As you can see here, this is a tree, cut out tree. This is a well, right? And this is a wooden log. Wooden log, you can say. There has been a stone has been tied with this end of the wooden log, right? This is a stone. Now what happens is, this bucket is lowered down, right? And then when the bucket is filled, this stone is tied to this end of the wood so that it automatically comes upwards, right? First of all, you have tied the bucket with the wooden log. The wooden log goes inside the well, and then this stone is tied to the wooden log, right? And the bucket comes out. So this is basically a simple system of obtaining a bucket full of water, and then as you can see, this man is spreading the water into the fields. So this is a simple system of irrigation, and it is a traditional system hence, because it does not require much science. It is very simple and it requires much more labor, right? It is much more difficult to work this way. Then comes rahat. Let us see what rahat is, or rehet. Some people call it rehet as well. Let us see. In this picture, you can see there are two bulls, right? There is a wooden log that they are pulling, right? They are rotating in a circle and they are pulling the log with them. So there is a rotating system here. This is kind of a pulley, and with the help of this pulley, this system works. And what is this system? This system is basically, it looks like this. There are buckets, right? They go into the pond, you can say, or the water source. They go into the water source, and they drop the water into this rack, right? Into this tray, you can say. And then through this tray, through different pipelines, this water is sent to the fields. So this is rehet, and it is much more efficient than dhekli, moat and other systems, because the water is being brought without much labor, right? The water pulling is using pulley systems, with the help of which water is obtained and it is sent to the field with the help of different pipelines, right? These pipelines are also made up of wood only, or you can say simple bamboo sticks. They can also work for sending water from one place to another. So this is the traditional system, the last one. Now coming to the modern systems. These were traditional systems, now come modern systems. They are much more economical and efficient. Some commonly practiced methods are drip irrigation, sprinkler system, furrow irrigation, basin irrigation. These are the 4 new modern systems. Let us study them one by one. The first one is drip irrigation. Now, what is drip irrigation? As you can see, there is a pipeline, and from a small opening, the water droplets are being transferred to every plant, right? For every, basically you can say at every 1 meter, there is a hole, and this hole basically sends water into the soil directly. And it is very much efficient, it is very organized, right? As you can see in this picture, there are many pipes, and at every 1 to 2 meters, there is a hole which sends water directly to the soil, right? Now, because it is a drip irrigation system, there is no water wastage. It is much more efficient, right? And economical as well. It does not use much water because water is directly sent to the respective plants and there is no water wastage. So this is a modern system and it is very efficient. Second is sprinkler system. It is more of a random system. It is not organized. What happens is, as you can see in this picture, there is a pipeline and there is a rotator above, right? Now there are holes, there is an opening on the rotator. Now high pressure water is sent into the pipelines. High pressure water, with the help of, you can say, motors, water is being sent to the pipelines, and from the pipelines it is released because it suddenly opens up under it was under high pressure, but now it is not under high pressure, so it spreads suddenly, and then what happens is this part, it keeps rotating, so it spreads water in all directions because it is rotating. So this is more of a random system. It is not organized. So drip system is much more efficient than sprinkler system, but this also works, right? As you can see in the field, there are many sprinklers installed and they are all spreading water in all the directions. Then comes furrow irrigation. What is furrow irrigation? The difference is, it is kind of a drip irrigation, but there is a difference. The amount of water is much more in furrow irrigation. As you can see, this is a thick pipeline, right? And the outlets are sending much more quantity of water, right? The water, as you can see, is in a good amount. The whole rows have been filled with water. Now, furrow irrigation is utilized for plants that require more water, right? Drip irrigation is utilized for plants that do not require much water, but furrow irrigation is useful for plants that need much more water, right? Such as rice fields, they require more water. So furrow irrigation is efficient more in those kinds of cases, right? So this is the third kind, in which we are using a thick pipeline which has holes cut out of it, and when they are opened, the water flows out of it and a good amount of water is utilized in this system. Last is basin irrigation. What is basin irrigation? As you can see in this picture, the whole field has been filled with water, right? The whole field has been filled. Basically, the whole field is now known as a basin because it contains a lot of water. Now, here the crops require even more water than the plants which are requiring furrow irrigation. So, in this kind of irrigation, the whole field is filled with water with different pipelines. So, this is basin irrigation, right? It also can be done with the help of rains, because rains also help in basin irrigation. The water fills in the fields. They basically are constructed in a way that water gets collected in this basin. As you can see, there is a depression here, right? They are present at a lower height, right? So, due to this lower height, the water gets collected in the basin and the whole area is filled with water and it becomes a basin basically. So, this is known as basin irrigation, right? Now students, last thing in this topic is water logging. Now what is water logging? Water logging occurs when there is too much water in the plant's root zone. When excess of water is present in the plant's root zone, it decreases the oxygen available to roots. Now this is not good. This must be taken care that excess of water is not put in a plant, because the plant also requires oxygen from the roots which is present in the soil. So if you need the plant to grow properly, water logging must be prevented. It occurs when there is too much water in the plant's root zone, which decreases the oxygen available to roots. Weeding, right? Let us see what weeding is. Students, undesirable plants growing naturally along the crop are known as weeds. As you know, the crops are grown at a huge scale, right? So in a large field, there are many undesirable plants, right? There are many undesirable plants which grow naturally along the crop, right? They grow naturally. They are present already in the soil and they just grow with the help of the water and the fertilizers which are provided to the crop. So these undesirable plants that grow naturally are known as weeds, and the removal of the weeds is known as weeding. The removal of these undesirable plants is known as weeding, right? Now students, why is weeding necessary? Why do we need to do weeding? Students, weeds compete with the crop plants for water, nutrients, space and light. As you can say that crops require all the four, and it is important for them to obtain this. But if there are undesirable plants present, they will be utilizing the water, nutrients, space and light which are meant for the crop, right? So they compete with the crop plants for water, nutrients, space and light. They affect the growth of the crop. Obviously, if the crop is not obtaining proper water and nutrients, so the growth of the crop will be affected, right? Some weeds even interfere in harvesting and may be poisonous for animals and human beings. So sometimes these weeds interfere in harvesting. Obviously, if they are not removed before harvesting, then they come into harvesting as well, and they may be poisonous for animals and human beings. So they must be removed. Now, if they are poisonous, when should they be removed? When should weeding be done? The best time for the removal of weeds is before they produce flower and seeds. You must identify that this is an undesirable plant. So you must remove it as soon as you see, before flowers and seeds are produced on it, right? Because it is not that poisonous when it is a seedling. So you must remove it when it is in its seedling stage, before it develops flowers and seeds, right? Now there are some pictures showing some weeds. This is bindweed, right? As you can see, this looks like a flower, but this is an undesirable plant. Then comes Argemone mexicana. This is a yellow flower plant. It has already flowered and it looks like this basically. As you can see in the picture, without flower, this plant is green in color and white in middle as well, right? Then Crotalaria. This is again, it looks like mustard, as you can see. If it is a mustard field, it is difficult to differentiate between them, but they must be removed. Then comes pigweed and Calotropis. These are some examples of the weeds or undesirable plants that grow alongside the crop, right? So these are some weeds which grow naturally and they must be removed before they reach their flowering stage and seeding stage. Now coming to the methods of weeding. What are the methods of weeding? First is tilling or plowing. Now students, when the soil is being prepared for the sowing of seeds, at that time plowing is done. Now plowing, as you know, that the plowing is done with the help of a machine as well, right? Seed drill. So this is a machine which is doing plowing, right? It is doing tilling. So when tilling is done, the weeds are automatically uprooted due to that, because the soil is being turned So weeds automatically are uprooted, and hence tilling helps in removal of weeds, right? Now manual method. Manual method is removing these plants by identification and removing them manually with the help of your hands. And the instrument that is being used here, as you can see, these are the different instruments. The most common one is this one, and it is known as khurpi in Hindi. Khurpi, right? These are instruments used to pull out the plant, to cut the roots and to pull it out so that the plant does not grow again. So this is the manual method to do weeding. Next kind is chemical method. Now, how does this chemical method help in removing weeds? As you can see, the chemical that is being sprayed is 2,4-D-amine weed killer. It does not affect the crop. Alright, it does not affect the crop. You just spray it on the field, and the weeds that are present in between the crop will automatically die. Now they must be utilized under proper observation, and they must be utilized very carefully because they are very dangerous for human beings. As you can see, the man that is spraying the weed killer has put a cap, even a mask and gloves, so that he does not come in direct contact with the weed killer. So this is how weed killer is sprayed, and it destroys the weed only, not the crop, right? So these are some methods. Now comes crop protection. What is crop protection? Students, crop protection is done to ensure a good yield. Crops should be protected from stray animals, birds and pests. Obviously, if there is something edible in the field, the animals which are stray, the birds and pests may come and eat the crop, right? They may destroy your field even. They will decrease your yield. So how can you protect the crop? As you can see in this picture, there is a structure, a wooden log on which you have put on human clothes, right? All of them look like humans. These are known as scarecrows. As animals do not know the difference between scarecrows and human beings, they are scared away due to these scarecrows and they do not enter the field. So this is how scarecrows are important, because they keep the stray animals and birds and pests away from the field. There are some methods. As you can see here, fencing has been done so that the stray animals and pests do not enter. Scarecrow is standing, right? And there is spray, which basically makes the animals think that this is something not good, this should not be eaten. This spray makes them taste bad and also sometimes a little bit poisonous, so they do not come again. So these are some methods of crop protection. In this lecture we studied what is weeding, how weeding is done and why is it important, what are the methods of weeding and what are the methods of crop protection.